Welcome to the only wave management guide you'll ever need. In this guide, we will quickly go over some terms and theory, we'll look at the differences between low and high wave management, and finish it up with some examples in real games. So stick around to find out how you can win the game by playing PvE. And by the way, this is a small part of our premium bootcamp we've bundled into a YouTube guide for you. To learn more, check out the links in the description. With that out of the way, let's quickly recap the basic terms and theory you need to know and should know in order to even start doing wave management. Here's a question for you. At what times does the cannon wave meet in the center of the lane? In case you didn't know, Riot coded in a specific time in which the cannon waves arrive to lane, and it's an easy to remember time too. Pause the video and take a guess when the first cannon wave meets in the middle of the lane. You can also type in the comments to lock in. And yes, it's the same for every lane. Here are the facts. The first uncontested cannon wave will always meet in the middle of the lane on 2:30, and keep doing that every 1 minute and 30 seconds, so the wave after that will reach the center of the lane at the 4th minute mark, then 5:30, then 7, and so on. Memorize these times. Knowing when the next cannon wave will come into lane can be extremely useful in cases where you want to recall or move around the map, because of the simple fact that the cannon wave takes the longest to kill. Cool, we know the cannon timers, but what to do with the actual wave? Crash, push, and bounce. These three operations are the bread and butter of wave management. Let's quickly see what they are. Crash. Crash means completely moving your wave to the enemy turret so that it is in turret range. Push. Pushing sounds simple, but do you even know when a wave is pushing? The minion count is not the only thing that matters, and can instead even be deceptive. What high elo players look at is total minion health, which is the sum of all the health bars of minions. Whichever is higher, pushes. Except no, a wave like this will still push even if the total health and number of minions is the same. That's because the minions arrive earlier and are able to group up and do damage before the other wave comes in, and so it still pushes. Thinking about it this way makes it super easy to understand what a freeze is. Basically, the more you move away from the center of the lane, the more minions you need to keep the wave in that position. And if those conditions are met, a freeze occurs. Bounce. Bounce is when a wave starts pushing to the opposite side, like when you crash the wave. Great, we've covered the operations, but how do we use them? The whole world of wave management revolves around 4 segments of the lane. We will use top lane to illustrate our points, but this applies to all roles. Every lane has the aforementioned 4 segments for minions to be in, and the wave can only be in one at a time. Each segment has their own pros and cons, and you want to manipulate the wave based on these. Let's start with segment A. In here, you are safe, another turret. You shouldn't be killed and can farm in peace. But also, you can get dove 2v1. You can't leave the lane if a play happens on the map unless you want to miss a lot of minions, and the wave can bounce, which you sometimes don't want. Segment B is interesting. Here, you can farm minions safely under a tower and you cannot get dove. You can also sometimes recall or leave lane here. Plus, here the enemy is vulnerable to ganks and has to fight you to get minions. Okay, so what about CD? Well, if you think about it, CD is just AB from the opponent's side. Basically, all pros become cons and cons become pros. Amazing, right? And that's literally all the info you need. You might say, oh well, this isn't that groundbreaking. Where are all the fancy Pythagoras Euclid equation rules? The reason we didn't just give you something like a textbook with 20 different rule examples for specific scenarios like other coaches is simply because the game is just too dynamic. Your choice to push might be completely troll in one situation, but amazing when the dragon is just spawning. So from now on, think about why you want your wave in what position based on the lane matchup, jungler, objective, and so on. We simplified it into this, so that next time you're on the Rift, you can remember our framework and make conscious decision about your wave and not some brain-dead decisions. High elo players will always have a reasoning behind their wave management, even if it is sometimes wrong. They can always tell you why they're pushing or not pushing. However, there are a few traps you need to watch out for before you start practicing. A lot of the times, players will get baited into seemingly good plays that are actually pretty bad. Let's look at a Jinx doing something she thought was good in the current moment, but absolutely horrible in the long run. To give some backstory to this game, the Jinx and Milio were fairly even, but then they killed the enemy bot lane and can now do whatever they want. Quickly, what do you think our bot should do? Hint: the lane is completely isolated. Don't care about random jungle ganks or roams. Push and recall, correct. Our bot, however, decides to get greedy and stays for an extra plate, which causes them to recall too late, which causes the enemy bot to have enough time to push the next wave and get the plate. This is a net gold and experience loss. See how complex the game is? This is why you need to use your brain and think at least 2 waves ahead. Let's look at another example of utilizing what we've just learned. In this clip, we are well in the early game and we're pretty fed as Lucian. We won't go into how he got fed because right now we're only focusing on wave management. But in what segment do you think we should play as this Lucian right now? That's right, segment B. And that's exactly what the Lucian in the clip does. We are punishing the enemy by playing in our B segment because for Samira, it is really hard to contest the ranged minions, for example, as well as gank pressure and everything we've mentioned before. This causes Samira to starve out of CS because she just can't afford to walk up, and inevitably leads to a double kill because of the gold lead. Of course, this is high elo, so we can see Wukong coming to bail out the enemy bot lane because he also recognizes their wave state is really bad. Hopefully you understood that. Let's look at a final example from the same game which might be a bit trickier. Our Lucian and Thresh managed to get a double kill bot and the wave is in this state. Based on what we learned so far, what do you think he should do? Hopefully, you replied just recall. This is because Lucian's abilities are on cooldown, and by the time he'd killed this cannon wave, another wave would arrive into lane as well as the enemy bot, and with his HP, he wouldn't be able to finish out the crash. One acceptable answer is also to trim the wave a bit, so that the wave does not crash under a tower too soon. We hope you enjoyed this guide, and if you'd like to get better and to reach new peaks, we highly recommend joining our Discord, where we hold monthly free lectures off of which we make these guides, but also weekly paid lectures, which is a one-to-many coaching with a live Q&A and other bonuses like our unique ranked climb checkups, where we help you apply what you've learned. Links in the description.